I killed my own reflection that night, staring into the gilded mirror of a penthouse I never earned, and whispered the name of the man whose body I'd stolen, Elias Hawthorne. The scalpel in my hand trembled not from fear, but from the sweet promise of carving out the truth he'd buried in my bones. And when my parents showed up with that smug realtor, sneering, "Losers don't deserve property," they had no idea the queen of the deal was me, Riley Voss, risen from their trash heap, ready to burn their empire to ash. It started 6 months ago, in the sweltering heat of a Chicago summer that clings to your skin like regret. I was Riley Voss, 25, scraping by as a barista in a Wicker Park coffee shop, the kind where hipsters pay $8 for oat milk lattes while I dreamed of escaping the roach-infested walk-up my parents called home. Mom and Dad, Lila and Frank Voss, weren't the monster under the bed type. They were the slow poison, the folks who'd smile through your birthday while pocketing your gift money for bills. Betrayal? It ran in the family bloodline, diluted but deadly. I'd always known something was off about our family ledger. Dad worked construction when the gigs came. Mom flipped thrift store junk on eBay. But somehow, we'd owned that old brownstone on the south side. Prime real estate in a gentrifying neighborhood, worth a cool million if you flipped it right. Grandma Voss left it to me in her will when I was 18. A secret bequest she'd whispered on her deathbed. "It's yours, Riley. Don't let them touch it." But by 20, the title had vanished from county records, lost in some bureaucratic shuffle my parents swore was an accident. I was too broke, too trusting, to fight it. Or so I thought. That changed the night Elias Hawthorne walked into my life, or slithered, more like. He was the king of Chicago's shadow economy. Tech mogul by day, puppeteer of dirty deals by night. Hawthorne Industries built the algorithms that predicted your next purchase, but rumor had it they also engineered the falls of anyone who crossed them. Tall, silver fox handsome in his 50s, with eyes like polished obsidian, Elias spotted me at the coffee shop counter, fumbling a customer's order. "You look like someone who's carrying the weight of the world," he said, sliding a $100 tip across the scarred wood. "Ever wonder what it's like to drop it?" I laughed it off. Flattery from a suit like him was just another tip jar coin. But he kept coming back, week after week, buying out the pastry case just to chat. He learned my story, the dead-end job, the parents who treated me like an ATM for their Vegas weekends, the brownstone that should have been my ticket out but wasn't. "You're wasted here, Riley," he'd say, his voice smooth as bourbon. "I know a way to fix that." A partnership. The partnership was his pet project, a black market neural swap, cooked up in some off-books lab funded by Hawthorne's slush fund. Not full body snatching like in those B-movies. No, this was elegant, sci-fi sleight of hand. A cocktail of nanites and psychedelics injected via a sleek wristband device, swapping consciousnesses for a trial period. Officially, it was for empathy training, CEOs walking in their employees' shoes. Unofficially, leverage, blackmail, escape. He pitched it as my big break. Swap with him for 24 hours, experience the power, then swap back with a fat consulting gig. Feel what it's like to own the city, Riley. Then teach me how the other half hustles. Desperate for a win, I bit. That night, in his Lakeshore Drive penthouse overlooking the glittering loop, we synced the bands. A jolt like lightning through my veins, a vertigo whirl of memories not my own, yacht parties, boardroom coups, the thrill of ruining lives from afar. Then blackness. I woke up in my own bed, but it wasn't my body. The mirror showed Elias Hawthorne's face staring back, salt and pepper hair, crow's feet etched from too many calculated smiles, a physique toned by personal trainers but softened by excess. Panic clawed my throat. My hands, his hands, were manicured, veins mapping a life of ease. Downstairs, my phone buzzed. Text from me to Mom and Dad. "Sold the brownstone. Wired you the proceeds. Don't fuck this up." No. God, no. He'd used the swap to forge my signature, liquidate the property I'd hidden ownership of through a trust grandma set up. The realtor's email confirmed it. Closing tomorrow, buyers lined up. My inheritance, poof, funneled to my parents' account, minus whatever skim Elias took for facilitating. Betrayal didn't cover it. This was theft of self. I tried the band again. Nothing. The swap was permanent, keyed to his biometrics, which were now mine. He was in my body, living my scraps of a life, probably laughing over cheap coffee. And me? Trapped in the skin of Chicago's most untouchable predator, with his empire at my fingertips and a ticking clock before his security goons noticed the boss acting off. The first decision was controversial even in my head. Do nothing, ride the wave, become him. Power like that, private jets, senators on speed dial, could buy back the brownstone tenfold. But rage is a better motivator than greed. Elias had stolen my future. I dismantle his past. Step 1: dig. His home office was a vault of secrets, encrypted drives, hidden safes. What I found chilled me deeper than the swap. My parents weren't innocents. They'd been on his payroll for years, informants feeding him dirt on Marx, like Grandma, who tried to sue Hawthorne Industries over a faulty algorithm that bankrupted her late husband's firm. The lost title? A favor they called in, framing me as the unstable heir to discredit any claim. Deeper still, the crime I'd borne. 5 years ago, a whistleblower at Hawthorne leaked docs on a data harvesting scam that ruined thousands. Identities stolen, lives upended. Elias pinned it on a patsy me. Anonymous tips to the feds, doctored logs showing Riley Voss, freelance hacker, taking bribes. Charges dropped for lack of evidence, but the stain stuck. Jobs lost, loans denied, my name synonymous with fraud in every background check. All while my parents' cash checks labeled hush money. Elias wasn't just cunning. He was a spider, web spun from boardrooms to back alleys. His wife, Victoria, a socialite with claws sharper than her Louboutins, knew fragments but played along for the lifestyle. His son, Theo, a trust fund cokehead, was the weak link, partying too hard, spilling secrets to dealers. And then there was the board, suits who'd greenlit the swap tech, turning humans into interchangeable parts. I started small, testing the waters in this borrowed skin. Elias called a meeting with the realtor handling my brownstone sale, some sleaze named Harlan Tate, all gelled hair and gold chains. Delay the closing. I growled over speakerphone, voice modulator off to let his timbre do the work. Buyer's flaky. Harlan stammered, but complied. Next, I wired funds from Elias's slush account to a shell LLC, Riley Voss Properties, reclaiming the deed quietly. My parents got a teaser, half the proceeds, with a note. Invest wisely. More where that came from. They bit, of course. Hook, line, sinker. Mom texted back, from my old number, now his puppet. Thanks, sweetie. Frank and I are hitting the boats this weekend. Proud of you. Proud. The word twisted like a knife. That weekend, I tailed them in Elias's Bentley, blacked out windows hiding my stolen face. They blew the cash at the Horseshoe Casino, laughing over slots, oblivious to the noose tightening. But power corrupts fast. By week 2, I was dipping into the perks, a steak at Gibson's, flown-in Wagyu melting on my tongue, a business trip to Napa, sipping Cabernet while plotting. Controversy crept in. Did I deserve this? Elias's memories flooded unbidden, the thrill of a hostile takeover, the god complex of rewriting fates. I pushed them down, focused on revenge. Theo was key. I bonded over scotch in the penthouse den, dropping hints about Dad's old debts. The kid cracked like cheap glass. Victoria knows about the swap tech. She's got a side hustle, swapping with influencers for dirt on rivals. Victoria, the ice queen herself. I confronted her at a gala for the Art Institute, all crystal chandeliers and whispered deals. Darling, she purred, air-kissing my cheek. You seem off. Jet lag. I leaned in, Elias's cologne masking my sweat. Or maybe it's the guilt. Riley Voss, remember her? The girl whose life you helped erase. Her eyes flickered, just once. Bingo. That night, I hacked her phone. Elias's privileges opened doors, finding emails to a lab tech. Permanent swap authorized. Eliminate traces. The web tightened. My parents? They'd pimped me out unknowingly, feeding Elias my schedule for the swap night. The crime I'd shouldered? It shielded a bigger one. Hawthorne's AI had rigged elections, swaying votes in key districts for zoning favors. Grandma's suit threatened to expose it all. My framing was the kill shot. Decisions got uglier. I leaked Theo's dealer logs to the Sun-Times. Anonymous tip. Hawthorne heir in overdose scare. The board panicked, calling emergency sessions where I played the grieving father, all while siphoning funds to whistleblower groups. Victoria? I swapped her Chanel bag for a tracker, following her to a clandestine meet with Harlan Tate. Turns out, the realtor was her lover, and the brownstone sale? A laundering scheme for Hawthorne kickbacks. Tension coiled like a spring. Elias, in my body, was slipping. Texts from me grew erratic. Who the fuck is Hawthorne? Get me out. He was unraveling in my old life, probably squatting in the evicted apartment, piecing together the betrayal. I had to move fast. The climax brewed on a stormy October night, wind howling off Lake Michigan like the city's own fury. I summoned them all to the penthouse. Mom, Dad, Victoria, Theo, Harlan, even a proxy for the board, some lawyer named Kessler. Family meeting. The invite read, Elias's seal making it ironclad. They arrived piecemeal, suspicion etching their faces. Mom in faux fur, clutching her purse like a shield. Dad nursing a flask. Victoria in emerald silk, eyes darting. I stood at the head of the conference table, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the tempest. Welcome to the endgame, I said, voice steady. Harlan snorted. Elias, you drunk? This about the South Side flip. Mom chimed in, oblivious. Riley said the money's coming, Mr. Hawthorne. We're good for it. That's when I dropped the bomb. Projected on the smart wall, docs scrolling, forged deeds, emails, wire transfers. My face, Elias's face, stared them down. Riley Voss is dead. I lied, watching them blanch. You killed her. For this. I gestured to the opulence, the view worth empires. Chaos erupted. Dad lunged. What the hell, man? We did what you paid us for. Victoria hissed. You promised discretion. Theo just whimpered. Harlan bolted for the door. Big mistake. Security, my reprogrammed drones, locked it down. Sit. I commanded, and they did, the storm outside mirroring the one within. Confessions spilled like cheap wine. Mom sobbed about Grandma's stubbornness, how Elias offered to fix the will. Dad admitted framing me for the hack, planting malware on my laptop during a family dinner. Victoria? She'd greenlit the swap, jealous of Elias's empathy experiments with younger women, me included, unknowingly. The board proxy squirmed. It was business. Voss was collateral. I let them stew, circling like a shark in Elias's loafers. The controversial choice, mercy or massacre. I could have called the feds right then, watched them rot in Supermax. Instead, I offered a deal, sign over assets, confess on record, vanish. Or I burn it all, starting with your legacies. Theo took the bait first, snitching on Victoria's offshore accounts. Harlan cracked next, spilling the laundering web. But revenge isn't clean. As lightning cracked the sky, I felt Elias's memories surge, a buried truth. He'd swapped not just for the brownstone, but because I was his daughter. A one-night fling with Mom in the 90s, hushed up, DNA test buried. The crime I'd borne? Protection. For him, from his own sins. You're mine, Riley, his ghost whisper echoed. Blood calls to blood. The twist hit like thunder. I wasn't the victim. I was the echo. Rage flipped to something darker. Kinship? No, just more fuel. Dawn broke gray as they signed. Mom and Dad, broken, begged. We love you, Riley. Forgive us. I laughed cold. Love? That's the luxury you sold. I let them walk. Into poverty, not prison. Controversial? Hell yes. Victoria got deported. Fake passport fraud I pinned on her. Theo? Rehab, courtesy of my generosity. Harlan? Disbarred. Elias's body felt heavier as I reclaimed the brownstone, standing in its dusty foyer. Happy ending? The property was mine again. Hawthorne's empire gutted, me a ghost in a tycoon's shell. But the mirror mocked, whose eyes stared back. Tragic, maybe. Revenge hollow, family a curse. Or debatable. Did I win? Or just swap one cage for another? Chicago hummed on, indifferent. I poured a scotch, his habit, and toasted the storm. To inheritance, I murmured. Swapped, but never lost. The scotch burned going down, but it was nothing compared to the fire in my gut as I watched Mom and Dad slink out of the penthouse elevator, their shoulders hunched like they'd aged a decade overnight. Frank, Dad, clutched that flask like a lifeline, his construction calloused hands trembling. Lila, Mom, dabbled at her eyes with a tissue, mascara running in black rivers down her cheeks. Riley, baby. She'd whimpered one last time. We only did it 'cause we thought it was best. Best for who? For the slots in Joliet? For the down payment on that Winnebago they eyed in the RV lot ads? I didn't uncork the full truth then. Not about the DNA, the blood tie that made this betrayal incestuous in the worst way. Let them marinate in their half-lies. The elevator dinged shut, and I was alone with the ghosts of Elias Hawthorne's life. Framed photos of fake family vacations, a humidor of Cubans he'd smuggled past customs, a wall safe now cracked open to reveal ledgers of sins. Sleep was a joke that night. Elias's body rebelled. Insomnia wired into his DNA from too many all-nighters closing deals that bled people dry. Instead, I paced the marble floors, phone in hand, scrolling contacts that read like a who's who of corruption. The alderman who'd rezoned Wicker Park for Hawthorne high-rises, displacing families like mine. The DA who'd buried the whistleblower case. Even a White House advisor, codenamed Eagle, for federal contracts on surveillance tech. First Light brought the realtor, Harlan Tate, summoned back under threat of IRS audit. He arrived slick as ever, but sweat beaded his forehead under the gel. "Mr. Hawthorne, sir, about last night." "Shut it," I snapped, sliding the reclaimed deed across the glass desk. "The brownstone's off-market. Reverse the sale. And Tate, if I hear one whisper of this to your bed buddy Victoria, I'll own your kneecaps." He nodded furiously, scribbling notes. Controversial? Intimidation wasn't my style, Riley's style, but Elias's toolkit came loaded, and damn if it didn't fit like a glove. By noon, the property was mine again, title clean through the LLC. I drove down there in the Bentley, tires humming over potholed streets that screamed Chicago authenticity. Takarius blasting reggaeton, kids in Bulls jerseys dodging puddles, the L train rattling overhead like urban thunder. The brownstone loomed at the end of the block, 3 stories of faded red brick, gingerbread trim peeling like old scabs, chain-link fence sagging around a yard choked with weeds. Grandma's rose bushes clung on, thorny survivors. Inside smelled of dust and memory. The creak of stairs where I'd hidden from Dad's benders, the kitchen where Mom baked pies for church sales, but never for us. Upstairs, my old room, now a storage dump for their crap. Unpaid bills, pawn tickets, a faded photo of me at prom, smiling like I didn't know the world was rigged. I sat on the floor, back to the wall, and let it hit. This was mine. Not just bricks, legacy. And Elias had tried to snatch it, puppeteering my blood to do his dirty work. The DNA revelation nod. From Elias's fragmented memories, pieced like a jigsaw in acid, a 99 layover in O'Hare, Mama cocktail waitress slinging drinks at some dive. He'd been in town for a conference, high on the bubble of dot-com boom. One night, one mistake, then silence, until she showed up years later with a problem to solve. The hack frame-up? Not just cover, it was absolution. Keep her small, he'd thought. Keep her ours. Ours. The word curdled. Phone buzzed. Theo. "Dad, what the fuck?" "Mom's flipping out. Says you're cutting her off." "And the papers?" "Riley Voss." "She's nobody." I texted back. "Meet me. Coffee. Now." The kid showed at a Loop Starbucks, eyes bloodshot, hoodie hiding track marks. Overburnt drip, he spilled. Victoria's swaps weren't one-offs. She'd tested the tech on rivals, socialites body-jacked for insider trades, then dumped back broken. She laughed about it, Dad. Called temp upgrades. Upgrade. That's what Elias saw in me. A fresh chassis for his escape. But Theo? He was the real weak spot, craving approval like oxygen. "Help me fix this," I said, clasping his shoulder. Elias's paternal grip, heavy with unspoken failures. "Start by digging on your mom. Emails, calendars, everything." He nodded, eager, the prodigal son finally useful. Afternoon blurred into strategy. I hit the Hawthorne Labs incognito. Elias, badge granting God mode access. The neural swap chamber, sterile white, banks of humming servers, wristbands charging like venomous bracelets. The lead tech, Dr. Lena Ruiz, a mousy PhD with guilt in her eyes, stammered through the logs. The Voss swap was irregular, sir. Biometrics locked post-procedure. Reversal requires mutual consent. Mutual. Elias, in my skin, would never override it, I ordered. She hesitated. Controversial, breaching ethics that were already ash. Or I shut this down. All of it. Her hands shook as she keyed in a backdoor, but warned, side effects. Memory bleed, psychosis. It's not tested. Psychosis. Fitting for a man who'd built an empire on stolen minds. I pocketed a spare band, slipped out as sirens wailed, some protests downtown, Occupy 2.0 against big tech. The city pulsed with unrest, marches against data privacy, effigies of suits like Elias burning in Grant Park. I felt the irony, a ghost in the machine fueling the fire. Evening brought Dad's call, drunk dial from a payphone, voice thick with bourbon. Riley home yet? Tell her we need more cash. Hawthorne stiffed us. I hung up, gut twisting. Betrayals echo. They'd raised me on lies, but was there love under the grime? No time for therapy. Instead, I leaked Kessler's emails to a blogger, ProPublica type, hungry for scoops. By midnight, headlines screamed. Hawthorne board tied to election meddling. The board convened at dawn, virtual war room crackling with panic. I cheered from the penthouse, face impassive. Damage control, I intoned. Divest the AI division. Public apology. Murmurs of dissent, millions at stake. One suit, Grayson, pushed back. This is Voss's doing. That barista bitch. I smiled Elias's smile. Careful, Grayson. She's got teeth now. Teeth. I was sharpening mine. Victoria texted, we need to talk. Alone. Trap? Probably. But opportunity knocks with claws. We met at the signature room, 95 floors up, city sprawled like a conquered map. She arrived in furs, martini in hand, but her poise cracked. Elias, darling, what's this madness? The leaks, the boy. You're unraveling. I leaned in, breath mingling over the rail. Unraveling. Like you did to me. Us, when you locked the swap. Her laugh tinkled, forced. For your own good. That girl was a liability. Your indiscretion. Indiscretion. My conception, reduced to footnote. The confrontation escalated. Words like daggers, accusations flying. You knew about the blood test. I pressed. Hit it to keep the shares in family hands. She paled, glass slipping. Frank was a fool to tell. But Riley, she's not boardroom material. Not material. Rage boiled. I gripped the rail, knuckles white. Controversial urge. Shove her over. Watch her plummet like Icarus in heels. Instead, I whispered, sign the divorce papers. Walk away with dignity. She didn't. Called security, her private muscle, not mine. Fists flew in the elevator descent, grunts echoing off brass. I fought dirty. Elias's Krav Maga downloads kicking in. Elbow to throat, knee to gut. She crumpled, gasping, as doors opened to the lobby chaos. Paparazzi swarming the leaks fallout. I left her there, broken but breathing. Mercy? Or calculation? The line blurred. Night fell heavy, rain lashing windows. Theo delivered. Victoria's black book, scanned to my secure drive. Inside, the final thread, Elias's eagle, was the governor, blackmailed into fast-tracking Hawthorne permits. One call to the feds, and the dominoes toppled. But Elias stirred. A voicemail from my old number. Voice, my voice, hoarse. I know what you are. Come get me, Dad. Or I'll tell them everything. The trap snapped shut. Revenge's climax loomed. Family ties the noose. The voicemail looped in my head like a bad acid trip, my own voice, timbre soft from years of apologizing, now laced with venom. Come get me, Dad. Or I'll spill to the trib how Hawthorne's golden boy is a body thief. Elias, squirming in my skin, had holed up in a no-tell motel on the west side. The kind where hookers charge by the hour and roaches host eviction parties. Address attached, a taunt wrapped in coordinates. I geared up. Burner phone, the spare swap band in my pocket like a loaded gun, Elias's Glock tucked in a shoulder holster. Cold steel against silk shirt. A reminder this body came with baggage. Chicago at rush hour was a beast. Horns blaring on the Dan Ryan. Billboards hawking lawsuit loans and vape shops. The air thick with exhaust and desperation. I ditched the Bentley 2 blocks out, hailing a lift to blend. Some soccer mom type, oblivious, chattering about her kid's piano recital. The motel squatted off Cicero Avenue. Neon vacancy, buzzing like a migraine. Room 207, door ajar, the scent of stale smoke and fear hitting me first. There I was, or had been, curled on the bed in threadbare sweats, hair matted, eyes wild. Me, but not. Elias's arrogance twisted my features into a snarl. Took you long enough, he rasped, scrambling back against the headboard. Riley, or should I say sister? The word landed like a sucker punch. He'd pieced it too. The memories bleed both ways in the swap. Nanites whispering secrets across the divide. I shut the door, hand hovering near the Glock. Blood doesn't make us kin, Elias. It makes you the monster who sired me. He laughed, a wet hack. Sired? Classy. Your mom was a gold digger even then. Flung herself at me for a story to sell. I paid to shut her up, not play daddy. Lies, half-truths, didn't matter. The room closed in, peeling wallpaper curling like accusations. You stole my life, I said, voice low. Framed me for your sins, pimped my parents to cover tracks. The brownstone? That was the cherry. His eyes, my eyes, gleamed. Collateral. You were always small time, Riley. A glitch in the system. The hack? It hid the real play. Rigging the '08 crash algorithms. Shorting the market while the plebs ate ramen. Confession poured, damn too long. How he'd tested swaps on junkies first, discarding bodies like used napkins. How Victoria curated the volunteers, preying on the desperate. Controversial crossroads. End him here, swap back, let the husk rot. The band burned in my pocket, reversal protocol humming faintly. But power whispered, stay Elias, rule unchallenged. Join me, he urged, sensing the waver. We could be unstoppable, father and daughter, Hawthorne 2.0. Burn the board, the city, all of it. The offer hung, tempting as sin. Flashes, boardrooms bending knee, private islands, rewriting my trash heap past into legend. But betrayal's scar ran deeper. No, I said, snapping the band on my wrist. Jolt hit us simultaneous, vertigo whirl. Consciousness yanked, slammed. I gasped awake in my body. Familiar aches, the faint scar on my thumb from a childhood bike crash. Across, Elias blinked in his flesh, smug smile fading to horror as reality sank. You bitch, he wheezed. The logs, they'll trace to you now. Trace? I'd wiped them en route. Dr. Ruiz's back door, a one-way street. But he lunged anyway, his hands, clawing for the gun. We grappled, cheap lamp shattering, sheets tangling. My body, slight against his bulk, but rage evened odds. I kneed his groin, snatched the Glock, barrel cold on his temple. Any last deals? I panted. He spat blood. You're me now? The Empire eats its own. Trigger finger itched. Controversial kill, self-defense blurred to murder. Sirens wailed distant, maybe a neighbor's 911. I hesitated, then cracked the butt across his skull. Lights out, not forever. Zip ties from the motel's kit. Anonymous call to CPD. Intruder at Hawthorne penthouse. Check the logs. Back in my skin, I bolted. Uber to the brownstone, heart hammering. The reversal side effects hit like a freight. Memories fusing, Elias's coup tactics bleeding into my barista banter dreams. Psychosis edged in. Whispers of boardroom whispers in the fridge hum. But freedom tasted sweet, even curdled. Dawn Patrol, news alerts pinged. Hawthorne air assaulted, corporate intrigue. Theo's doing, probably, covering for mom. Speaking of, door pounded at noon, Frank's fist like Judgment Day. Riley, open up, girl. We know about the motel. Hawthorne's dead meat. I cracked the door, chain taut. They shoved in, mom trailing with a casserole like it fixed felonies. Baby, what happened? That man. He promised us security. Dad loomed, flask empty. You in deep, kid. Spill. Spill. I laughed, bitter. The kitchen table, scarred from years of takeout, became confessional. Docs spread. The payoffs, the frame up, the DNA printout I'd swiped from Elias's safe. Mom blanched. It was one time, Riley. He was rich, you were. Unexpected. Dad growled. We protected you. Kept you out of his world. Protected. The lie cracked open the flood. How they'd coach me to fail job interviews, sabotage college apps, for your safety. Deep betrayal, parental edition, not neglect, but sabotage, shielding Elias's secret while dooming their own. You gambled my life, I said, voice steel. For scraps. They begged. Tears, hugs, promises of amends. Controversial mercy redux. Evict them clean, or drag to court. I chose exile. Pack your shit. Greyhound to Florida by sundown. Or the feds get the files. They slunk out. Casserole abandoned. The brownstone echoing their defeat. Afternoon schemed bigger. Theo called, voice shaky. Riley's back? Dad's in custody, says you're the thief. I met him at the cemetery, Grandma's plot under autumn leaves. Help me end it, I said. Testify. The swaps, the rigs, all of it. He wavered. Loyalty to blood, even toxic. Victoria's fleeing. Private jet to Cayman. Opportunity. I tailed her to O'Hare, incognito in a Cubs cap, band in purse like Pandora's. Tarmac chaos. Fuel trucks, jet wine. She boarded, heels clicking, then froze as I stepped from shadows, Harlan at her side, handcuffed courtesy of my anonymous tip. Riley Voss, she sneered. The glitch returns. We dueled words on the tarmac, wind whipping. You curated my erasure, I accused. Swapped lives like outfits. She smirked. Survival, darling. Elias was weak, you prove it. Theo arrived then, flanked by feds. His call, redemption arc, it's over, Mom. Cuffs clicked. Harlan sang like Sinatra, laundering exposed. Victoria's empire crumbled midair, jet grounded, headlines howling. But tension peaked. Elias's trial loomed, my testimony the dagger. Board remnants circled, Kessler offering bribes. Settle out of court. 5 mil. Temptation gnawed. Easy out. Brownstone flipped for yachts. No. I prepped. Nights pouring affidavits. Elias's memories arming me like a Trojan horse. Climax eve. Protest swells outside the courthouse. Anti-tech chants echoing Lincoln's shadow. I stood on the steps, mic in hand. Not witness, but whistleblower. Hawthorne didn't just steal data. I broadcast, voice amplified. He stole souls. Crowd roared, phones live streaming. Inside, Elias glared from the dock, my face twisted in his hate. Verdict dropped like guillotine. Guilty, life without parole. Twist whispered. As gavel fell, his eyes met mine. Not rage, but recognition. Daughter, he mouthed. Blood's curse, eternal. Aftermath simmered dark. Brownstone renovated. Me in the attic studio, painting over ghosts. Theo visited, clean now, heir apparent reformed. We could rebuild, he said. Rebuild? On what stolen stones? Debate lingered. Victory, or just another swap? The city chewed me up, spat me sharper. I poured coffee, my blend, not his scotch, and watched the loop lights. Inheritance, fractured but fierce. The courtroom echo faded like a bad hangover. Elias's daughter, mouthing a ghost in the bailiff's grip as they hauled him away in orange jumpsuit. My old face contorted into something feral. Guilty on all counts. Fraud, conspiracy, even manslaughter from a botched early swap that left a junkie catatonic. The gallery erupted. Activists cheering, board suits slinking out like rats from a blaze. Me? I slipped the side exit, pulse thundering. The weight of testimony lifting, but not gone. I'd spilled it all. The neural tech horrors, the election rigs, the personal theft of my very self. But naming Mom and Dad as accomplices? That stayed buried. A controversial mercy bullet I couldn't fire. Outside, Chicago autumn bit hard. Crisp wind off the lake carrying whispers of wood smoke and change. Protesters thronged the plaza, signs bobbing. Swap the suits. Data thieves out. A chant started as they spotted me. Riley. Riley. Hero? Or Patsy? Cameras flashed. Reporters swarmed. CNN stringer shoving a mic. Ms. Voss, any comment on the Hawthorne legacy? Legacy. I paused. Rain starting to spit from steel clouds. It's not legacy. It's a debt. And I'm collecting. Uber back to the Brownstone. Driver a chatty cabbie from Pilsen. Heard about the trial. Chica. That Hawthorne prick finally got his. I nodded, staring out at blurring taillights. The city a vein of neon and grit. Home now smelled of fresh paint and possibility. Contractors I'd hired with the first lawsuit settlement check, turning the derelict into a duplex. Bottom for rental income, top for me. No more walk-up roaches. This was roots, reclaimed. But echoes haunted. Elias's memories didn't fade with the swap. Nanites lingered, synaptic graffiti. I'd wake at 3 a.m. in cold sweats, not from my old nightmares of Dad's rages, but his. The '08 crash close. Brokers jumping from ledges while he toasted profits. Psychosis flirted, board meetings in my dreams. Victoria's laugh echoing in the fridge hum. Dr. Ruiz prescribed blockers. Off-books consults in her loop office. Her own guilt a mirror to mine. You're integrating, she said, voice clinical. But choose, his power or your peace? Peace. A joke. Theo crashed that night, unannounced. Key I'd given him during his reform phase. He looked good, clean shave, AA chip glinting on his keychain, but eyes hollow. Dad's raging in lockup. Says you'll rot with him. We cracked beers on the stoop, city symphony, distant sirens, kids hollering in the alley. Victoria's talking plea, he added. Ratting on the board for leniency. Good. Let the dominoes keep falling. But Theo's real ask hung unspoken. Family. We could be something, Riley. Half sibs, right? Hawthorne 3.0. Clean. Clean. The word soured my sip. Blood's dirty, Theo. Ask Elias. He pressed. Visions of joint ventures. Me as silent partner in the slimmed-down empire. Controversial temptation. Leverage his connections. Flip the brownstone portfolio wide. No. Build your own, I said. I'm done swapping. He left at midnight. Hug awkward. The rift a chasm. Alone. I hit the basement. Grandma's old trunk. Unearthed during Reno. Letters yellowed. Her scrawled pleas to lawyers about Hawthorne's sabotage. One postscript. Riley, girl, don't let them dim your fire. Burn bright. Tears hit then, hot and unbidden. Fire. I'd kindled it, but at what cost? Next days blurred into fallout frenzy. Lawsuits snowballed. Class actions from swap victims. SEC probes into the rigs. My cut. 7 figures. Wired to Riley Voss Properties, LLC. I lawyered up. Fierce Latina from the South Loop, Carla Reyes, who smelled blood and sued for keeps. We're gutting them. She grinned over Foe and Argyle. But you? Stay low. Targets on your back now. Targets. Harlan Tate's ghosted first. Overdose in county. Ruled suicide, but whispers of board hit. Victoria's trial loomed. Her Cayman jet impounded. Assets frozen. She called from lockup. Collect. Riley. You little cunt. He told me. The fling. You're the bastard we hid. Venom, but cracked. Help me, or I name you accomplice. Blackmail, family style. I hung up, but tension coiled. Testify against her, or let rot. Decision night. Storm raged, power flickering. I paced the attic, bandaged wrist itching from the reversal scar. Downstairs, a knock, insistent, panicked. Mom and Dad, soaked, suitcases dripping on the welcome mat. Riley, the feds, they know. Dad's flask clattered, empty. Mom clutched a rosary, lips moving in silent Hail Marys. They'd fled Florida. Greyhound busted at a bus station tip-off, probably Theo's loose lips. We didn't mean, Mom started. I cut her, save it. Inside, kitchen table redux, casserole swapped for cold cuts. Confessions tumbled, how they'd stashed payoff cash in a safety deposit box, thinking it inheritance seed. How Elias groomed them as sleepers, feeding crumbs for loyalty. We loved you, Dad slurred. Twisted, but true. Twisted love, the ultimate controversy. Evict to the wolves, or shield one last time. I chose the gray. Sign these. Affidavits, immunity deals I'd cut with Carla. Minor players, walk if they flip on Victoria. They did. Tears flowing, hugs that smelled of regret and Old Spice. Go west, I said. Phoenix. New names, my dime. But vanish. Dawn saw them off at Union Station, Amtrak to nowhere. Mom's last whisper. Forgive us, baby. Forgiveness? Not yet. Maybe never. But the debt eased a notch. Empire's collapse accelerated. Board dissolved, assets auctioned. Penthouse to a tech co-op, labs shuttered. I scooped the brownstone block cheap, turning it co-op, affordable units for artists, baristas like old me. Community center in the basement, coding classes free, irony's gift, tech for the takers, not thieves. But shadows lengthened. Anonymous threats. Emails from Legacy. Slashed tires on the Benz I'd bought. Elias's acolytes, circling. One night, break-in, window smashed, message scrawled. Swap back or bleed. I armed up, Glock under pillow, sleep fractured. Climax brewed at Victoria's sentencing, federal courthouse a fortress. I testified, voice steady. She chose power over people. Swapped lives like stocks. Her glare burned, defiance cracking to desperation. He's your father, Riley. Blood wins. Gavel fell. 25, no parole. As marshals led her, she mouthed, watch your back. Theo waited outside, rain sheeting. It's done, he said. But his eyes, Elias's eyes, held hunger. Join the remnants? We could, no. I walked away, into the downpour, city swallowing me whole. Echoes persisted. Powers pull, families fracture. Was this triumph, or just the intermission? The brownstone waited, lights warm. I unlocked, dripping, and breathed. Empire fallen, but mine rising, dark, tense, undeniably mine. Rain sluiced the brownstone steps like absolution or accusation. Hard to tell in Chicago's moody November grip, where every downpour dredges up the city's buried grudges. I toweled off in the foyer mirror, my face, finally, fully mine, staring back. Dark circles from trial prep, a fresh bruise from the break-in scuffle, but eyes sharp, Riley's fire undimmed. The Glock sat heavy on the hall table, a talisman against the shadows Elias left. Threats had escalated. Legacy Lives graffiti on the fence, a brick through the community center window last week, shattering a mural of diverse hands linking, ironic, for a swap saga. Carla called at dusk, voice electric over the line. Victoria's appeal tanked. And the board holdouts? Pleading out tomorrow. Your cut's ballooning. 8 figures now. 8. Enough to flip the whole South Side block into a haven. Eco-homes, job training hubs, no Hawthorne strings. But money's a mirror, reflects your scars. Good, I said. Wire half to the co-op fund. The rest. Scholarships. For kids like I was. She paused. You sure? That's your leverage. Leverage. The word soured Elias's echo. I'm done leveraging lives. Hang up, brew tea. Chamomile, not scotch. And survey the empire I'd unwittingly inherited. Blueprints spread on the dining table, tenant apps stacked high. The brownstone pulsed now, alive with renters, a graphic novelist in 2A, Somali refugees in 1B, a barista single mom in the garden unit. Mirrors of my ghost. Theo's text pinged. Outside. Talk. I watched from the window, his Audi idling curbside, headlights cutting fog. Half brother, half threat. Since Victoria's fall, he'd pivoted hard, rebranding Hawthorne Remnants as a green tech startup. Noble on paper, but whispers said otherwise. Backdoor deals, swapped staff for loyalty tests. I buzzed him up, door ajar. He entered hesitant, shedding a wool coat that screamed money. Place looks. Lived in. Scan. The murals, the herb garden thriving in the yard. Yeah, real life does that. We settled in the kitchen, herbal steam rising between us. His pitch came soft. Riley, Dad's rotting. Letters begging for you. Says blood's thicker. Thicker than what? Betrayal's gruel? And you? What's your angle, Theo? Guilt flickered. Redemption. We launched together, neural tech for good. Empathy swaps for therapy, not theft. Tempting lie, memories confirming his hand in early tests. Volunteering friends for Victoria's games. Controversial crossroads final. Ally or excise? No, I said. Build clean, or not at all. And stay away from my block. He rose, jaw tight. You're him now, cold. Dad's daughter after all. Door slam echoed, taillights fading. Blood's curse, indeed. But cutting ties felt like surgery, painful, necessary. Night deepened, power out from the storm, candles guttering. I lit one in Grandma's room. Now the co-op office. Her photo watching from the mantel. Stern, smiling, rosary beads looped. Did right by you, I whispered. Sleep evaded. Instead, a walk. Hood up, blocks looping under sodium lamps. The neighborhood breathed. Bodega open late. Cackles from a corner bar. A sax busker wailing Coltrane riffs near the L stop. That's when they came. 2 shadows peeling from an alley, ski masks, pipes glinting. Elias's acolytes, bored remnants muscle, hired hit for the glitch. Adrenaline surged, old me versus new. I dodged the first swing, pipe whistling air, counter with a knee to gut, Elias's Krav Maga reflex. Second lunged, I grabbed a loose brick, cracked his knee. Grunts, curses, for the old man. But numbers won. Pipe grazed my ribs, fire blooming. I bolted, lungs burning, into the taqueria glow. Patrons scattered, but the owner, big guy named Manny, grabbed a bat. Not on my watch, Mija. Brawl spilled, cop sirens closing. Masks fled, one limping. Me? Bruised, bleeding, but standing. ER stitched me up, questions dodged with mugging. Carla arrived, fierce. This ends. Restraining orders, PI on payroll. Ends. Dawn broke skeptical, sun gilding the lake like fool's gold. Back home, mail slot stuffed. Elias's letter, contraband from Supermax. Scrawl shaky. Riley, daughter. I made you to conquer, not crumble. Take the throne, or they'll bury you like me. Love, father. Love. The byword ignited the final twist. Reversal not just of bodies, but truths. He hadn't stolen to destroy, but to forge. The frame-up? Armor against rivals, sniffing his secret air. The swap? Baptism by fire, forcing me to wear power's weight. Mom and dad's grooming? Twisted tutelage, prepping the pawn for queen. Not betrayal, initiation. The crime I bore? His sins, yes, but shield for mine. In his memories, a buried file, my own hack. Age 16, joyriding data for college cash. He'd covered it, framed bigger to eclipse small. Mind reeled, victim or chosen. The brownstone, the empire's fall, not theft reclaimed, but inheritance seized. Controversial epiphany, rage misaimed, at ghosts of my making. Action crystallized. I burned the letter in the sink, ashes swirling to drain. Called Theo, deal. But my terms, clean tech, community board. No shadows. His yes, tentative. Carla for the suits, settle, but with strings, reparations fund. Even Elias, visitor pass pulled, but a note, rot with your lessons. Months folded, block bloomed, co-op thriving, my studio a command center, coding ethics classes by day, sax lessons funding scholarships by night. Threats faded, acolytes scattered or jailed. Mom and dad, postcards from Phoenix, clean, distant, love's loose end, tied not tight. Ending? Debatable as dawn. Happy, power mine, on terms kind. Tragic, blood stain indelible, swaps eternal in the soul. I stood on the roof one spring eve, city sprawling. Loop lights winking like conspirators, lake whispering secrets. Wind tugged, carrying Coltrane's echo. To ruins reclaimed. I toasted the air, tea steaming. Chicago laughed back, tense, dark, alive. And me? Riley Voss, swapped no more, queen of my chaos, burning bright.